Hi, my name is Kimberly Grace, and today I'm going to read to you an excerpt from my book, A Pause in Life Can Lead to Love. This is a book that I self-published, and it is available for purchase online on Amazon and other online retailers. Today I'm going to read to you chapters 5. Let's begin. Chapter 5. Jude had finished her last class of the day and eagerly packed up her things. She had finished early and was excited to have extra time to paint. She hastily threw her hair up into a messy bun and tossed her yoga mat into her car. Jude had been a yoga instructor for the town's local Shore Point Fitness for 5 years. She loved being able to help others relax and reach their exercising goals. Another definite perk was getting to teach the class on the beach and listen to the gentle crashing of the waves in the background. On Wednesdays, she taught her students on stand-up paddleboards in the calm waters of the bay. Those were her favorite classes, as Jude considered herself to be practically half mermaid because of all the time she spent in the water. If she wasn't teaching or painting, she was surfing or swimming laps in the ocean. The beach life was the only life Jude knew, and she loved every salty and sandy-covered day she got to spend in her happy place. She drove her little red pickup truck a quarter of a mile down the road to the spot where she had deemed was the perfect place to paint. It was located on the north side of the beach strip, away from the hustle and bustle of busy downtown. Not too many tourists visited that far up the beach, so only a few locals frequented that area for a quieter place to spend the day by the ocean. There was an enclave of rocks protecting this particular portion of the beach, and they created the perfect windshield on most days. Jude also loved this location because she could typically spot a pod of playful dolphins frolicking about in the waves as they made their way down the coast. The sunrises were also spectacular, with the rays jutting out from behind the rocks and casting their warm golden glow over the shimmering ocean crests. Each sunrise was unique and beautiful to Jude, and even though she knew that she could never fully capture their beauty, she loved to try and match the radiant colors as close as she could. Jude also liked to paint at night when it was cooler, and she would watch the vibrant sunsets for inspiration for her painting. Jude had just finished setting everything up when she heard barking off in the distance. Oh my, he is early today. Where did I put the dog food that Paula gave me? She rummaged quickly through her pile of bags until she finally located the food at the bottom, buried under a mountain of various snacks. Jude ripped the bag open so fast that some of the dog food came flying out and spilled in all directions over the sand. She poured a big helping of food into a makeshift doggy bowl that she had fastened from an old milk jug container. There, this should keep you from stealing my brushes today. Not a minute after Jude had finished placing the bowl of dog food on the sand, an energetic golden dot emerged in the distance, racing full speed towards her. Jude could tell that the dog was older, but he was a handsome canine. His fur was groomed well, so she knew he must have a good owner that cares a lot for him. Yet she couldn't understand why the owner would let the dog run loose and steal items. Surely his owner must notice the paintbrushes. Wouldn't he or she think it odd? The golden retriever bounded happily toward Jude, wagging his tail the whole time. He barked excitedly as if he was greeting an old friend. Well, hello there again. I don't know who sent you, but I want you to know that your tricks won't work. I will finish this painting. Even if it takes me years or decades to complete, I'm not giving up. The dog usually grabbed an item and took off immediately, but this time was different. He sniffed the dog food but did not take a bite. Instead, he walked over to Jude and laid down at her feet. He rolled over onto his stomach and wiggled around, hoping that she would reach down to give him some soft belly rubs. Jude was shocked, but eagerly obliged her new friend's request. I should be mad at you for stealing my paintbrushes, but how can I be mad at you when you are being so adorable? Okay, how about we strike a deal? I'll give you belly rubs and treats, and you stop stealing my stuff, okay? Do we have a deal, mister? Jude laughed as the dog barked 3 times as if he understood her, and wagged his tail happily. He then jumped up to give her a big, slobbery, wet kiss on the cheek. Jude nearly lost her balance from the dog's strong enthusiasm as he jumped up on her. Where is this dog's owner? They must be worried by now that their dog has not returned to them. Jude scanned the beach, trying to find anyone that looked like they were trying to find their dog. She was starting to contemplate who she should call and what she should do when, out of nowhere, a man came sprinting across the sand and nearly barreled into her. There you are! I've been looking all over for you. Come here, boy. I am so sorry, ma'am. I hope he didn't give you too much trouble, said Dylan, almost out of breath. He walked over to Lennon and picked up his leash. Lennon had a sheepish look on his face as though he knew he was in trouble with his master. Jude noticed the dog's concerned look and replied, "Oh no, he was in trouble. He seems like a very good dog. Extremely friendly and enthusiastic, though." "Yes, well, thank you for being so understanding. I really am sorry that he interrupted you." Then Dylan knelt down and looked directly into Lennon's eyes and said, "I guess we won't be able to take walks on the beach if you're going to break free, eh, bud?" Dylan reached down and scratched behind Lennon's ear to let him know that he still loved him, even though he needed to scold him a bit. Dylan looked around and noticed the art set up by the woman. He suddenly made the connection that his dog had most likely been stealing her art supplies. His cheeks flushed a bright red from embarrassment. "Ma'am, I don't know how to say this, but I think my dog may have been taking a few things from you over the past few days." "Ah, yes, your dog is the canine caper, as I like to call him. Also, you should know that dogs are required to be kept on their leashes at all times on this beach. Perhaps so that they do not run off and find things that don't belong to them?" Jude said with a sly grin. "Well, Dylan began, but he was at a loss for words as he felt guilty and surprised by the woman's straightforward confrontation. He knew that he was supposed to keep Lennon on a leash, but it made his old dog so happy to explore the beach freely and search for treasures. He had never been caught or called out before, but now he knew that he would have to keep Lennon on a leash. His dog would be heartbroken, but hopefully he would get over it because this lady certainly wasn't going to let him off the hook. Jude was enjoying the man's noticeable embarrassment and consequential unease with the situation. She had always liked having the upper hand and wanted to tease him more, but she sensed how awful he felt, and it was also to this man's advantage that she found him quite handsome. Jude was never shy around anyone, but for some reason this man made her blush by the way he stared at her. His dreamy blue eyes reflected the color of the sky, and his shaggy dark brown hair danced intrinsically in the wind. He was tall and muscular, but not in a workout fanatic sort of way. Jude felt like she knew this man, but couldn't place where. She looked into his eyes, trying to figure out where she may have seen him before. Dylan awkwardly tried to avoid her intense gaze by looking down at the pretty seashell that Lennon was desperately trying to find a way to grip in his teeth and carry away. Not only did he have to wrestle with his guilty conscience for not realizing that his dog was actually stealing from the stranger, but oddly, he also had to address the weird butterfly feeling he got when he looked at this woman. Although she wasn't wearing any makeup and her hair was flying everywhere in a loose bun, she looked stunningly attractive to Dylan. A few stray strands of her long, dark brown hair framed her angelic face. Her eyes were a gorgeous, rich blend of blue and green hues that mingled perfectly together to create an almost wave-like feature in them. Her tank top and shorts were splattered with paint, and she even somehow managed to get a splash of pink and orange in her hair. She looked to be in her 30s, probably only a few years younger than him. Why am I feeling this way about a woman I just met? I don't know her name or anything about her, although she does seem awfully familiar to me. Boy, the sweltering heat from the sun must be getting to me. Finally, after a long pause, Dylan cleared his throat and said, "Let me replace the items he took. Where do you buy them?" "Oh, you don't have to do that. I have plenty of brushes." "No, no, please, let me make this right. I insist I replace your brushes. Where do you buy them?" "Look, I get that you feel bad, but it really is fine. Just don't let it happen again, okay? But truth be told, I really enjoyed meeting your dog. What is his name?" "Thank you, but I will find a way to make it up to you. This little rascal is Lennon." At the sound of his name, Lennon barked happily and rolled over onto his back. He wiggled back and forth in the sand and then rolled back over and began digging, which caused sand to go flying at Jude and Dylan. "Lennon, knock it off, would ya? You've already caused enough trouble for this lady." Lennon stopped spraying the sand and tugged on his leash to try and get closer to Jude. She was still trying to process the dog's name. His name is Lennon? This guy must be a big fan of the Beatles. Who names their dog Lennon if they are not a fan of the Beatles? She tried to calm her racing heart. She normally didn't get flustered talking to a guy, but she felt like a little giddy schoolgirl again. "Your dog's name is Lennon? Does that mean you're a Beatles fan?" Jude asked hopefully. "Yes, I love the Beatles. I've been a big fan of theirs for years. I'm Dylan, by the way. What's your name?" Jude smiled wildly as she felt slightly more confident and stepped closer to Dylan. "Well, I'm really glad to hear that you're a Beatles fan, because I'm also a huge fan of theirs. In fact, my parents even named me in honor of them." "Wait, your parents named you Ringo?" Dylan said with a chuckle. "Ha, very funny, but nope. Any other guesses?" How about Paula?" "Very good guess, but that's my sister's name." Dylan thought for a moment but couldn't think of another answer, so he shrugged his shoulders. Jude took a deep breath for dramatic effect and prepared for the big reveal. "My name is Jude." "Jude?" Oh, hey, Jude. Jude rolled her eyes and replied, Yeah, like hey, Jude. I get it all the time. I used to be annoyed with my name, but I've come to really like it. I think my parents are right to name me Jude. I am more of a tomboy anyway. I think it's a pretty name. Hey Jude is one of my favorite songs. It got me through a tough time in my life. Jude's smile quickly fell from her face, and Dylan noticed a look of deep sorrow replace it as she recalled the song's poignant lyrics. Yes, I too have found the song to be of comfort to me over the years, and it brings me much peace listening to it. The song especially helps me to still feel close to my parents when I'm missing them. I give anything to do over the day that I lost them and have them here with me again. Oh, I don't know why I told you that. I don't even know you. No, no, it's fine. I'm sorry you have been through such pain and grief losing your parents. What happened? Oh, geez, I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have asked you that. You don't have to tell me what happened. Jude sat down on the sand and Lennon crawled into her lap. The dog could sense she was feeling emotional and licked her hand gently. She began stroking his fur subconsciously as she stared out into the sea. Her eyes had grown solemn as she shivered slightly from the wind, and her mind started to relive the worst day of her life. She couldn't even talk about that day with her sister. It was just too painful. Drew didn't know why she felt comfortable talking to Dylan about it, but she suddenly felt compelled to tell him the story. She swallowed hard and wiped a stray tear from her eyes. My parents were avid sailors. They saved every cent they had to buy their beautiful boat. She was their most prized possession. They named her Penny Lane after their favorite Beatles song. It was a song that was playing at the concert where they first met. My dad noticed my mom dancing to it, and she was really into the song. She captured his heart right then and there. Jude paused to wipe a couple more tears away. Dylan sat down in front of her and gave a little smile to try and encourage her. So 3 years ago, they took their little sailboat out just like they had done many times before. It was a beautiful sunny day, a lot like today. Not a cloud in the sky. I was teaching a yoga class on the beach. A terrible storm came out of nowhere and the waves became dangerously choppy. I could make out the top of their sail flapping rapidly amongst the towering waves, and I knew they were in trouble. I raced to the lifeguard stand and they radioed to the Coast Guard for help. I felt completely helpless watching their tiny boat being tossed about by the giant waves. I couldn't just stand there and watch them drown. I was almost into the water when a stranger stopped me. I was a crazy mess of tears streaming down my face. He hugged me tight and whispered in my ear that the Coast Guard was almost to them. Unfortunately, it was too late. My parents had been knocked off their boat and they. Jude stopped talking. She could not bring herself to finish the sentence. She knew there would always be a part of her that regretted not going in after them. She had been the fastest swimmer on her high school swim team and also a CPR certified lifeguard for years. Jude really believed that she would have been able to make it to them in time. Lennon licked her face a couple of times and nuzzled his snout into her chest. She bent down and put her head on top of his and hugged him. He was such a sweet dog, and she knew he sensed her sadness. Dylan sat in silence, trying to find the right words to say to Jude. He was not expecting her to tell him such a tragic tale and felt a sick feeling in his stomach. Her story struck him with such force that he felt overcome with intense grief for Jude and her family. Dylan remembered that day, and he too wished that he could change it for her. Jude, I am so incredibly sorry for the tragic loss of your parents. I'm sure they would have been relieved to know you did not go in after them, given the brutal nature of the storm they faced. I remember hearing about your family's tragedy and praying for all of you. Thank you, Dylan. It is still hard to talk about. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry you probably have somewhere else to be right now, and here I am practically telling you my life story. Jude blushed and looked away from Dylan's inviting eyes. Why am I so attracted to this man? I barely know him, yet here I am pouring my soul out to him. He must think I'm nuts. I don't have anywhere else to be, and I'm happy to listen any time. Hey, I just realized that it is almost dinner time. Would you maybe want to have dinner together? It'd be my treat. Jude blinked some tears away and slowly mulled over Dylan's words in her mind. It took her a moment to snap back to reality and comprehend what he meant. Suddenly, Jude's spark came back into her eyes, and she grinned at him with a sly smile. Well, thank you for the kind offer, but I think you are just trying to be sneaky and find a way to pay me back for the brushes. Ha, yeah, you caught me. But also, I am enjoying getting to know you, Jude. I was hoping to continue our conversation. Jude didn't know why, but every time Dylan said her name, her heart skipped a beat. She really wanted to say yes, but her fears made her hesitate. Plus, she already had a prior commitment for tonight. I'm sorry, Dylan, but tonight is family game night with my sister and her husband, and I can't break our tradition. She would disown me if I did, she said with a playful smile and wink. Oh, well, say no more. I completely understand. Game night is serious business. Perhaps another time then. It was really nice meeting you, Jude. I hope that we will bump into each other again sometime. I would like that, Dylan. As long as Lennon comes to visit for pets and not to steal my art supplies. You got that, Lennon? Jude said as she leaned over and patted him on the head. Dylan smiled and whistled to Lennon that it was time to begin their walk home. Jude watched as they started to leave. She suddenly blurted out, "Wait!" before she even realized what she had done. They stopped in their tracks and turned around to face Jude. She bit her bottom lip as she pondered if it was appropriate to ask him to join her family's game night. This is crazy, but what do I have to lose? Don't be timid. Be the adventurous, risk-taking Jude you used to be. Say, Dylan, would you like to come to game night? Without any hesitation, Dylan grinned and happily replied, "Yes, I'm game." Jude laughed at his corny joke. She couldn't remember the last time she laughed so much. It was a really happy and freeing feeling for her. Great, here's my number. Send me a text and I will send you the address. Thanks. I guess I'll see you later tonight. Lennon, you better be a good boy while I'm out. Oh, you can bring Lennon. I wouldn't want him to be lonely tonight. Besides, I have to keep my eye on him so he doesn't get into any mischief. Jude and Dylan smiled at each other and locked eyes. Even though they had just met, they both could feel the strong attraction between them, but also a comforting feeling of familiarity as though they had met before. Lennon tugged on the leash and happily began prancing towards home. Game night suddenly was going to be a lot more interesting tonight.